Welcome to the Global Assembly of Nations, a place of Lord's righteousness, faithfulness, salvation, love, and truth.
Father Adonai, I have proclaimed what is right in the great assembly. I did not restrain my lips, O Adonai. I did not hide your righteousness in my heart, but declared your faithfulness and salvation. I did not conceal your love and truth from the global assembly of nations. Oh, help me, Adonai.
Hello, welcome to Global Assembly of Nations. This is part 1, series 1, and today we'll be discussing about the beginning, in the beginning. And our key verse today is from the book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 26. Let's read it together. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." And that's the word of God. From that text, we learn that there was a discussion in heaven, and God gave a command and said, "Let us make man." And what I want us to note is that he said that the man that was to be created was to be in the image of God and also in the likeness of God. And this is very important, and I want us to look at it a bit, because the image completely depends on the object. And the object here is God. God is saying that man shall be in his image. And you know, whenever the object moves, the image must also move. The image depends directly on the object. But what about the likeness? The likeness is like a copy. Something that looks like the original. It has the likeness of the real thing. And what did God mean by talking about a man that had his image and likeness? This tells us that the man that was to be created was to be in two forms. And one of them was the image. And this is what I'm referring to as the spirit. The man that was to be created was to have a spirit. And this spirit was the image of God. And this image was supposed to respond to every movement, every will of the Creator, every movement of the object, the Creator. And this image was the real man that was to be created. But the likeness that God referred to the body. This spirit was to be in a body. It was to be like God, but it did not need to respond to any movement or will of God. But the spirit was. And now, what I want us to look into, so that we can move out all this mystery, is the name that was given to this man that God created. This man that was to have the image and the likeness of God. In his wisdom, God called him Adam. And I want us to start here because there are so many lies that are peddled against there, trying to imagine or to try to say that this name, God was thinking about races, about whether the person is white or black. And that's why it was called Adam. And many have confused the name Adam with Edom, trying to say that Adam was called that because he was red. And this is the greatest joke that I have ever seen. God was not thinking about the race of the man that he had created. That was far from it. But because race has become a very big issue in our world today, we want to fit God in our thinking so that we can try to explain the name Adam in the lines of races. But what did Adam mean? Adam, first of all, was from the key or the root word Andama, which means ground. Ground. And with the ground, what God signified was to try to show that the creation that he had just made, he wanted to show its capacity to bring out life, new life. That he was not to create and create again tomorrow, but what he had created was itself had a capacity, or the capacity to reproduce life. And also, ground also showed the other extent of the fall that man was to undergo. He was to fall to the ground. But now, having said that, let me also say that Adam contained two parts. And the first one was the letter Aleph. Adam started with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which is Aleph. And Aleph means to lead or to dominate. And this was the first part of that name. And what really God signified here was that for the first time, he had made a spirit, an image of himself. And he represented that in the name that he gave it, that image, by calling it Aleph. And he told Adam that now from today you are to dominate, and you are to be the leader of everything that I have created. And not just that, but the name Adam also had the second part, the dam. And this represented the physical aspects of the man that had been created. The spirit was put in flesh. It was put in a body. And this body is what was represented by this part dam, which actually loosely interpret as blood, representing the physical aspects of man. And going back to what God had commanded, let us make man in our own image and likeness. This is exactly what he did, and this is what informed this name, because Aleph represents the spirit that God had created, or the image of the man that had been created. And Dam, in the other hand, represents the likeness of the creation that was created in this very day. And what I want us to note, even as I finish this session 1, is the order in which God made this. The name was Adam. It was Aleph, then Dam. And this was very significant, because in the will of God, he wanted Aleph to always lead the Dam. He wanted the spirit to be the leader of the body, so that he can be able to directly fellowship with the spirit. He can directly fellowship with Aleph as the Dam or the body followed. And these remained to be the constitution all the days when man remained in the Garden of Eden. And God always visited with his man and fellowshiped directly with Aleph, fellowshiped directly with the Spirit. And therefore, the name of Adam, the first man, was very, very significant. And it will be very, very wrong to try and think that God was thinking about the race of the first man in giving the name. But he was looking at what he had created, what he had commanded to be created. And now, in our next lesson, in our next series, we will be looking at how Satan came to cause confusion in this order, trying to bring down a hand of the Aleph, trying to bring the body to lead the Spirit. And that's where the problem started. That's where the problem between God and man started. That's where the direct fellowship with God in the Garden of Eden stopped. And that's where we shall be starting in our next lesson. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking your time at the Global Assembly of Nations, the place of love and truth. Kindly leave us with your feedback and follow us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Global Assembly of Nations. You can also subscribe with our YouTube channel at Global Assembly of Nations. Remember that you can partner with us or support us by clicking the appropriate button below. For now, goodbye.